Volume for a cylinder. A cylinder. On your formula chart, for a cylinder, it's V equals capital B times H. The most important thing is to know what your variables represent. So, here's my cylinder. My bases are the circles. For this example, my bases are on the bottom and the top. For a cylinder, capital B, capital B, capital B, what does it stand for? Area of the base. Area of the base. Well, what did I just say my base was? A circle. So, number one thing to understand is what does that capital B represent? It's the area of the base, knowing what shape the base is, which is a circle. So now I'm looking at my formula chart. What does it say the area of a circle is on my formula chart? Pi radius squared. Then, what does the H stand for? H stands for the height from base to base. Now that we have defined our variables, let's make an example. Okay, so I'm making up a simple example here. Let's say that this is 4 inches, and then this is 7 1/5 inches. Okay, let's say I want to find the volume of this cylinder. What I tell my students is take that base and draw it out. So here's my base. First, what does this 4 represent? Well, from one edge of the circle to the other, this represents the diameter. So I know that the diameter of my circle is 4 inches, but I don't need the diameter. I need the radius. So the radius is half of the diameter. So to figure out my radius, I would cut this in half or divide by 2. So the radius of my circle, of my base, would be 2 inches. Okay, that's important information. Then, 7 1/5. What does this represent? Well, this is from base to base. So this represents the height of my cylinder. A lot of students have trouble figuring out, well, what is 7 1/5 as a decimal? Well, to do that, I can just figure out what 1/5 is. To figure out what 1/5 is, 1 divided by 5. 1 divided by 5 is 0.2 or 2/10. So 7 1/5 as a decimal would be 7.2 inches, which is my height. So now that I have my stuff labeled, let's break down this formula. So volume equals capital B times H. I know that capital B represents the area of the base. Well, my base is a circle, and so the area of a circle is pi radius squared, then times height. Why are you doing the most? That's probably what your question is. Well, because we have to make this connection. We have to make the connection between the capital B and the pi r squared. If we don't understand that y capital B turns into pi r squared, then that's when we get problems incorrect. So if my capital B turns into pi radius squared, then my formula is pi radius squared times height. I do not like that in highlighter mode, so let's fix that. Volume, is it still the highlighter? There we go. Volume equals pi radius squared times height. So now we're just plugging in what we know. Pi times the radius squared. Well, the radius we found is 2, so 2 squared times our height, which is 7.2. Now that we broke it down, now we can use our calculator. So volume equals pi times 2 squared times the height of 7.2 will give me 90.5 inches